Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see here, we have constructed a Valorant themed virtual set. Why? Well, because we love this game, but unfortunately, loving something does not necessarily make you good at something, which is why I always lose playing this game. But anyway, so this set is obviously, would be used in a esports competition scenario. And what makes it fun when you build sets for esports industry is that you can go a little bit wild on your designs as opposed to maybe a boring corporate or news event. Now for me, this set looks pretty cool as is, but what makes it even more awesome is that it actually has animations. If I were to press a button, it would retract into a compact form, and if I were to press the trigger again, it would deploy to its open form. Alright, so in a previous video, I had shared with you guys 3 methods that I use to set up and trigger animations for my virtual productions. Now, here I'm going to show you guys a 4th way to do it, and the reason why I didn't include it in my previous video is because this method is a little bit cheating, because the animations are not done in Unreal Engine or in Ximiity. It's actually done in another software such as Blender or 3ds Max or Maya and so on. So for example, the stage that we have right here, the animations for it were actually done in Blender. Now I'm not going to be showing you guys how to do that because I don't really know how to use Blender, but I'm sure there are a ton of tutorials out there that can show you guys how to do animations in Blender. But what I am going to show you guys is more of my setup. So this is more of a breakdown video. It's not going to be a step-by-step tutorial. I'm actually going to go front to back. All right, so let's take a look at my setup here on Ximiity, and it's very basic. I have my project here, project node open here, and it has 3 inputs that I could use for video or images, and it corresponds to these LED screens I have here on my stage. So like LED A, LED B, LED C, and right now I have these images from the Valorant website that I downloaded feeding into these LEDs. And another thing that I have here is a trigger here that says stage IO, and if I press it, it will either fold my stage, or if I press it again, it will unfold my stage. So it's a very simple setup going on here. And of course, I would have my, this is the virtual cam setup, not a track cam setup. And I could have my casters or the host for the show, the green screen input, camera input right behind the table over here. So it's a very simple setup. And now let's check out what's going on, in this project. So let's move on to Unreal Engine. All right, so here we are in the Unreal Editor for Ximiity, and as you guys can see, there isn't that much going on in my scene. I have a plane here for the floor, and it's using a material from the Megascans library. I have 2 lights lighting my stage. I have my Ximiity camera, of course, and I have a blueprint here for my stage. And all the script for the video input to trigger the animations is all done within this one single blueprint, and all the assets are located in this one single folder. So I could just copy this folder and bring it to another project if I wanted to. And by the way, for those of you who would like to fiddle around with this virtual set, it will be available to download from my Patreon. Now, before I show you guys how the blueprint is set up and all that, I want to show you guys what's inside my stage folder here, because you might expect it to be like a lot of static meshes put together and all that, but actually it is not. It is actually one skeletal mesh. So this is one body. The entire stage is one. So it has a physics asset and it has a skeleton asset as well. So this is basically an FBX file that already had a static mesh with a skeleton and animation brought into Unreal. And the reason why it needs a skeleton, it's because it has animations to it. Now here in this folder, I have all the animations. I have 2 animations. So this is actually the animation of the stage folding. And here is the animation of the stage unfolding. Now, other than the two animations, the rest is basically just the materials for the stage and of course the textures for said materials. All right, so that's it. It's quite simple. There's not, many objects and static meshes and whatnot. So now let's check out what's going on inside this blueprint. So inside my blueprint, I have my skeletal mesh, the stage itself, and then I have two other components. It says sequence in and sequence out, and this is a actor sequence component. It's very similar to the level sequencer, but it is much more limited. It's like a mini version of it. And if you want to add it to your blueprint, you just have to, click on the add button here and search for sequence, and it's right here, actor sequence. Now what you should know is that it's much more limited than the level sequencer, and also it has a warning that says use experimental class actor sequence components, so it might be semi-beta or whatever. Just basically use at your own risk. It's best to test it out first and so on before your production. Now if you want to see the sequencer itself, you have to click on the open tab here, and as you can see now, I have my timeline open and I have a animation loaded onto it, and in my sequence in I have the animation of the stage opening, and on my sequence out I have the animation of the stage closing going on here. And for each of the sequences, I have to make sure I right click and it says keep state when finished, because if not, then if I play the animation opening closing, when it's done it will go back to the open state. So make sure it has that keep state inside the properties when finished. All right, so next let's take a look what's going on in the event graph. Whoa, it's not yet spaghetti, but getting there. So of course I have my nodes that's set up for the video inputs for my LEDs. So these A, B, C, LED A, B, and C. So this is my galaxy symmetry video for LED A, B, C, and this is for the get dynamic material for the materials for the LED A, B, and C. So I'm not going to go too deep into this because I already made a tutorial specifically on how to set up virtual screens for your virtual production. The only thing to note is because I'm not using static meshes, right? I'm using this skeletal mesh. So it is one single mesh. Now, it has multiple element indexes here, and this is corresponding to the material slot that I'm using for my LED screens, and I'm going to show you guys what I mean. So I have my skeletal mesh open here for the stage, and as you can see, there's so many materials that are being used for the skeletal mesh, and I have three material slots here that I'm using for the video inputs. So element 3 here, I think this is for my center LED, and element 12 here, I think this is for my left LED here, and element 15 here for my right LED. So this is when you're using skeletal mesh, all the elements are bulked into one entity, and you just have to note which elements corresponds to which part of your stage, and make sure that you have the correct number set up in your blueprint for the video input. All right, so heading back to the blueprint, aside from setting up the video inputs for the LEDs, here I have another segment here, which is to set up the trigger that will trigger the sequence in and sequence out of the stage. So get symmetry trigger, bind to trigger, and it has a flip-flop, so it acts like a switch. So if it's already animated in, it will animate out. If it's already animated out, it will animate in. So again, I've already made a tutorial on this, so I'm not going to go too much into too much detail because the concept is basically the same. But the only difference is that, and here is why I like having this component, the actor sequence component within the blueprint, is because I can have everything set up within the blueprint. Like, I don't have to use the level sequence and then I have to trigger it from the level blueprint and so on. I can, because it's inside the same blueprint, I can just, drag it out here and, play it within the blueprint. So that's the upside to it. The downside, as I mentioned, it's not as powerful as the level sequence, so it's limited. And a good example of that is that if I were to use the level blueprint, I wouldn't need to have like two sequences set up here. I could just have one sequence and then trigger one playing that sequence and another one playing it in reverse. You can't do that, or maybe I don't know how to do it. So if I, for example, drag this sequence in and I go like, okay, play, the only option that I have is play sequence. I don't have the play sequence in reverse. So maybe it's because due to my limited knowledge, maybe it is possible somehow. But if I were to use a level sequencer, the option would be there to play it in reverse. And so to sum it up with this method, no animation is done in Unreal Engine or in Ximitree. In my case, everything is done in Blender. It is then packed, with the mesh, the animation with the mesh and the materials and all that as an FBX file. I imported it in Unreal, and all I did in Unreal Engine is, set up the blueprint for the video inputs and the trigger to trigger the animations later on in Ximitree. I hope it was useful, and if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to write it down in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.